Hey, it's me, Garrett. And if it looks like I haven't showered in 2 weeks, it's because I haven't. I haven't had time. I've been making comics, and I got Stimulus issue 3 done. Okay? It's online, free to download. Check it out. It'll probably take you about a minute to read it because there's no dialogue. I wanted to do like a Mobius Arzak style comic. And it looks pretty cool. And as always, if you want to print it out, you can do so. And got a nice little comic there. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think, but before I do so, I want to make sure you read it, because if you hear my opinions, it's going to change your reading experience. So I'm going to give you a minute here. Go download it, read it. Okay, have you read it? Good. Okay, so I think there's a lot to like. The artwork is pretty cool. There's some really interesting sequences and layouts that are unique. The problem that I have with this series is that the narrative is weak. Okay, there's basically no story here. And there's a reason for that. The Spacetronaut, which is the first 3 issues of Stimulus, is a little story about regret, failure, not getting to where you want to get to in your career. If Star Wars is a fun space adventure about a guy who goes and fights the bad guys, hooks up with his sister, and saves the galaxy, well then, the Spacetronaut is basically what would have happened if Luke had stayed on Tatooine and just been a miserable fucking moisture farmer for the rest of his life, never accomplishing anything and just always hating his life. Not really a fun thing to write about. Life is not a fun space adventure. It's about going to a job that you hate and having to deal with disappointment. But obviously you get some structural issues when your protagonist is just some lonely asshole wandering space for 3 chapters. I think I get the feeling across, but there probably could have been more elements to tell the story better. The way I talk about these themes, you have a spacetronaut who dreams of attending the Mars Academy, but he never gets there. He's stuck for years in space, just alone, isolated, floating through space with no sense that he's getting closer to his goal. He can't see his goal. He knows it's there, but he's just floating. And the whole time he's stuck in his little bubble. Do you get it? These are metaphors. Space is a metaphor. The bubble helmet is a metaphor. And the only time he ever achieves anything in this story is when he finally breaks out of his bubble. And he has a violent catharsis where he brutally murders 4 astronauts and then steals their space rover and drives off into the distance. And for me, this symbolizes that feeling of the flash of inspiration that you get when you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see your goal, you know how to achieve that goal, and you do it. Fellow artists could relate to the feeling of having a huge, ambitious goal that hangs over you, that you can never get to. And so you're always unsatisfied and never productive. That's why my philosophy as an artist is to set short-term goals that I know I can meet, and I'm constantly achieving my small goals that make up a larger goal. It's my philosophy as an artist. It's also my philosophy for Stimulus. Of course, Stimulus is my art project of stimulating myself as an artist by setting these short-term goals. So that's why I thought it would be good for the first story of the Stimulus anthology to be about this philosophy. Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense at all? Okay, think of it this way. Have you ever heard someone say, aim for the moon, because if you miss, you'll still land among the stars? Well, that's horrible fucking advice. Because if you know anything about space travel, if you fuck up your trajectory, you're going to be left stuck, just floating by yourself in the black nothingness of space for the rest of your life. And that's not where you want to be. That's why I don't think it's productive to set goals that way. And that's why when I've dealt with failure in my life, the way that I get out of the doldrums of disappointment and get motivated again and inspired as an artist is to take it one step at a time. So like I'm growing little by little as opposed to getting hung up on one thing. Let me give you another example. Just, okay, for the sake of argument, let's say that my ultimate goal as an artist is to create a 2,000 page revolutionary graphic novel. Maybe something like this one? Well, how the fuck do you even get started with something like that? How do I go from where I am now to this? There are a million steps from here to here, right? Last weekend I did the 24-hour comic. That's one day where I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to make one little comic. It's not going to be very good, but I did it, right? So I did that thing. Now I can move on to the next thing. I learn from it, and then I get better. So, okay, I went on a bit of a philosophical tangent there. I apologize. But let me know what you think about the comic. If you don't like the story, well, I'm not surprised. But just keep in mind that I'm getting better step by step. And my next comic is going to be fucking solid. I guarantee it.